Hi guys, welcome back to Forgetful Scholar, and this week we're going to chat about books. 2 books this week. So this week I read sci-fi, fantasy, and contemporary paranormal romance. So this week I'm going to start with, I think, the sci-fi one. So it was a bit of a novella. It's All Systems Red, Murderbot Diaries Book 1 by Martha Wells. And this was a 4 stars. I loved it. So it's 176 pages and it was published 2019. So I wish this was like my first foray into the sci-fi genre because I really had fun. So this one was both of the books I read this week were really funny, but different kinds of humor. So the All Systems Red was definitely a dry, sarcastic sense of humor. Boring and nihilistic, but I enjoyed it. You know, I enjoyed being in the bot's head. So, and I will say that it is a short book. I got it from my library and I was able to they only had the audiobook from my library, which is fine, you know. So I listened to it. It was only like 3 hours. I don't think I've listened to enough audiobooks to say whether the narrator was great or not. I mean, I enjoyed it. Really, the dry, sarcastic social anxiety, really, they did a well job of like making me feel that. So it follows the story of what they call themselves is a murder bot, and they are basically there to bodyguard the scientists on another planet. And for such a short novella, the world building, phenomenal. Great pacing. It didn't feel like a lore dump. It didn't feel like I was just being told gigantic paragraphs of information about the world or the politics or anything like that. I mean, it was sprinkled throughout the story, and it was so well done that at the end of 3 hours, I knew what this universe was. I completely understood it, and I couldn't wait. I can't wait for more. So the bot in question hacked their governor module after a really bad thing he was forced to do, or they were forced to do, right? So they hacked it, right? Because it's very non-gendered, and what these bots are part human, part cybernetic. So there's more cybernetics than organic material, but you know, it unsettles people because they always wear helmets, so you don't know what they look like. But when the helmet's off, it's kind of unsettling because it looks like a person, right? And in this universe, there's modded people who kind of made me think a little bit of cyberpunk genre, where like they have implants in their heads, but they're more organic, you know, they're people, right? And then bots like this that are either security bots or soldier bots, things like that are more cybernetic than organic parts. And the organic parts are apparently from like clone material. So he's protecting these scientists on this faraway planet, and there is a huge conspiracy because someone who shouldn't be, like, the planet should be empty, just the people that are on the exhibition, but they're not. And it's a wild ride, and during it the scientists realize that their bot is actually free thinking, that they have their own free will, you know? So it's an interesting thing. And I really liked it because he didn't like the bot didn't like all the scientists. In fact, one of them they really disliked a lot. And I felt that was very realistic, so you're not gonna like anybody, right? And I understood the one that the bot didn't like, why that person was so like in his face, in the bot's face, and not believing, because these bots are, you know, the whole group, if they felt like it, you know? So I get it. As someone who watched Terminator, I understand. But we are in bot's head, and they just want to watch their serials, their soap opera, Sanctuary Moon, and that is like the cutest thing to me. And I know I've seen previews, commercials for the show that's coming out, and it looks like they have excerpts from like Sanctuary Moon, and I'm like, man, I wasn't gonna watch the show, but now I feel like watching the show just to see the soap opera. I loved it. I loved the action, was really interesting, and I liked that the bot wasn't invincible, like you'll see if you give this book a try. And the ending was perfect. That was like the perfect ending for the first book. It's exactly what should have happened. Like it makes sense, and it makes sense for the bot themselves, why they do what they do. And I was like, yes, please, and more. I can't wait. I can't wait. So I don't want to say a lot because, it came out a while ago, but the show's supposed to come on soon. It's supposed to be really good. Who knows? I hope so. My friend who suggested Dungeon Crawler Carl book suggested this one too. So 2 for 2, my guy, 2 for 2. But I had a lot of fun. Again, the world building, seamless. It didn't even feel like the world, like you didn't even realize the world was being built around you as you go through the story. It was phenomenal. And the bot, so awkward, just wants to stare into against the wall and just watch their soap operas. Oh, adorable. I really root for them. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm gonna continue reading the series, but you know how I do. I read one, read something else, and then go back to it because I don't want to get sick of it. Because if for example, Dungeon Crawler Carl, if I read the whole thing in one go, I might get sick of it because that's just kind of how I am. So I like to spread it out. So I'm going to spread this one out, but I really liked it and I'm excited for more. Okay, the second book is the contemporary paranormal romance, which I'm very picky about my contemporary romances, and I'm even worse when it comes to paranormal. So combine that. Okay, my Vampire Plus One, Jenna Levine, published 2024, 368 pages. This follows Amelia, human accountant, and Reginald, vampire fugitive. So this was 5 stars. No, 5 stars. I love this. So the humor is very specific. And Reginald's such a serious name. Like she calls him Reggie, and that fits him better. Like the vampire is so not serious. He's fascinated that she's an accountant, and like he thinks that's so cool. He lights up when he gets to talk to her father, who's an actual history professor. He's like, oh, I'm going to meet an actual real life history professor. Like he gets so excited. It's very cute. So the basics, basically, she is like the last single person in her family, and a family wedding, and her and her best friend decide that she needs just a +1 to get her family off her back. And it's sort of like a mistake. She's like, who says I'm going alone? Just because she doesn't want to hear it. And I get that, right? So she kind of makes up that she has a boyfriend. And then she's like, oh no, I have to get a fake boyfriend. And before this, she ran into Reggie on the street, complete, meet cute by accident. Oops. Of course, it was traction at first sight, which happens. I'm happy that it wasn't love at first sight. Traction at first sight, yeah, absolutely. Love at first sight, no. So traction at first sight, which I liked. She runs into him again in the cafe when she's trying to figure out like who could be her fake boyfriend. And he said like he owes her one because when they bumped into each other, she kind of helped him throw off the trail of this vampire group called the Collective that is after him, and it's so nuts. Anyway, the things that happened in this book really made me giggle a lot. And at page 300, I literally cheered out loud. So I'll leave that there. Love the ending. Love that. And he's like, hey, you owe me one and I need a fake boyfriend. And he's like, oh, this sounds like a best practical joke ever. I'm in, because he loves practical jokes. And to explain who Reggie is, one of his prized possessions, this had me laughing, is an oil painting of Edward Cullen that has sparkles in it, so it shines and so it sparkles in the sunlight. So that's kind of who he is, right? And the Collective, to threaten him, they put like the Count from Sesame Street in his cardboard cutout of the Count from Sesame Street in his bed. And like, I'm laughing, but Reggie's like terrified, you know. The humor, I was explaining the humor to my friend. She's like, oh, that sounds like what they do in the shadows. And I was like, that's it. I knew the humor was similar. I couldn't, like, it reminded me of something, but I couldn't figure it out. So the show, What We Do in the Shadows, it's sort of this, I think it's on Hulu, I'm not sure, but it's this mockumentary fake reality show of these these film crew were following the day-to-day life of vampires, and they are ridiculously incompetent, and it's very funny. So that's what made me think that's what the Collective is. That's sort of what the humor is. It's ridiculous, but I had a great time. And Amelia is an accountant, and she's very like strict with herself, and she's very type A, if you know what I mean, like everything in their place, you know, very rigid. She's working her butt off for this nonprofit to get them ready for tax season. And if she does well on the brief, then she's like a shoo-in for partner, you know? So she definitely focused on her career, and she has a past bad relationship, like someone cheated on her, so she's not really looking, right? And her best friend Sophie is like, this is the classic fake boyfriend trope, here we go. And I'm like, which made me laugh because it is the fake boyfriend trope, right? But like, the people in the book aren't supposed to know that it's the fake boyfriend trope. You know what I mean? So that was very fun. And I know the first book in the series, My Roommate's a Vampire, I haven't read it, but I want to now, is Reggie's best friend. That vampire is Reggie's best friend. And the female in that book is Amelia's older brother's best friend. So there's a little connection there, you know? The family love him, and Reggie is very different, right? Very impulsive, very disorganized, very like in the moment. What I loved is he gets obsessed with bullet journaling to process his emotions going through this, and it's very cute. The only thing I would have to say, like criticize wise, is that I liked the bullet journal entries are written in a different font in its script, right? My dyslexia did not like that. That was rough. I had to use my my bookmark underneath those sentences just to help out. It did fatigue my eyes a bit, but that is a me issue. And like, if I had to say something that I didn't enjoy in this book, that would be it. You know, I had a blast the whole time. And the thing is, what I really liked, because you figure the third act conflict is her finding out he's a vampire, but no, from the beginning, he's like, hey, I'm a vampire. And she's like, let me guess, you're a vampire fugitive. Like jokingly, he's like, yeah, how'd you know? So he thinks that she knows, and she's just super cool. And she thinks he's just making jokes because he's really shy and anxious about what his real secret is. And she thinks his real secret is that he's unemployed. So it's a fun little misconception, which is really adorable. And like, he's like, she's so cool. She's so cool with it. Like, wow. And then he finds out there's a connection through her brother. And she's like, oh, her brother Sam must have told her that vampires exist. That makes sense. She probably already knows. So like, so that's a really fun kind of misconception. Very I Love Lucy. Until like it comes to a head and she realizes her mistake. But in her POV, when that happens, you follow her thought process through all of it, and she calls her best friend to talk it out. And I really enjoyed going through her in that thought process, because the author was very good staying in Amelia's voice, right? Because obviously the point of that, because it's a romance, to get her to not care or accept that he's a vampire, right? Because it's a romance. But the way her thought process through it just felt so Amelia. And I was like, that's really good, because so often in romances, the author kind of loses the character's voice in important moments like that, because they're trying to get from A to C, right? And sometimes when they do that, B doesn't really feel like the character we've read up to that point, right? If that makes sense. Am I making sense? I feel like I'm just like talking gobbledygook and nothing. I hope that makes sense. So I really like that. And Reggie is such a sweetheart. He is so attentive to her dietary needs, and he gets mad that her family doesn't care about it, which is really messed up. Like, I have I have a food allergy. It's not peanuts or anything. It's like this random weird thing, but unfortunately it's in a lot of ingredients, right? And my family, like, even they take care of it even without me saying anything. They're like, oh, this is free of that. And I'm like, oh, you know, I'm always so appreciative, you know? I can't imagine like how neglected you would feel if your family just didn't pay attention to that. Oh man, so in that moment I could like empathize, even though my family is really good about that, right? So for that, I don't really care. Like, when I get together with friends, I make sure, like, I usually eat beforehand so I'm not a bother. But even like my close friends, they you know, pay attention to that, and that means the world to me. It's so sweet. I never asked them to, but they're just so sweet like that. So man, it must really be crushing that her family like just doesn't care that she's a pescatarian or that she's lactose intolerant. And lactose intolerance, like my mom's lactose intolerance, that's not fun. Like, I know like people show they have to run to the bathroom. Yeah, but it's like, it's painful run to the bathroom. You know what I mean? And that's not fun. So like, I love how like protective he gets of that. I love how Amelia saves the day with her brains, you know? She figures out how to get the terrifying, truly terrifying collective like away from Reggie. I really like that. And Reggie goes on like a bullet journal Discord, you know? And like he's asking the Discord for advice on Amelia and like how to it's really cute. Reggie's so cute. His personality is absolutely endearing, and I loved it because so many times people go with like, oh, I'm a brooding vampire, you know, and that can be fun, but it was nice to see a vampire that just seemed like a chaotic, artistic disaster, yet charming, a silly goose. You know, I like to see that he was a silly goose. He was probably a silly goose as a human, and when he was turned to a vampire, he continued to be a silly goose, you know? And I kind of like that. I like that a lot. It was a nice, refreshing change. I enjoyed the way the world building was set up. It was kind of like you were reading, the world building itself was kind of like you were reading law documents, or journal entries, or entries for meetings. So the collective is after Reggie because they think he set the fire that killed their sires. Even though like earlier you read like a document that showed that Reggie was cleared because there was witnesses seeing him somewhere else. So like no other vampire groups are after him, because I guess this kind of showed that they have their own like court system and things like that. They're not after him, but the collective is, and their meeting notes, so stupid. It's so funny though. It really is what they do in the shadows, sense of humor. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed both of the sense of humors this week. And again, they were so separate, dry, sarcastic, nearly nihilistic kind of sense of humor to like the just bumbling, silly goose, yet they take themselves so seriously, what they do in the shadows kind of humor. So it was a fun week. It was a funny week. It was a funny week. So that was good. So that's, I had a fun this time around. Yeah. I don't want to, but it's time for me to get back to the real world. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.